Welcome back to 101 Questions That Church Planters Ask. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Highfill.
And I'm Danny Parmelee.
And today we're going to be answering the question, how do you fire a volunteer? And here's the thing, man. I'll be honest, I am a people pleaser, so I have the most difficult time letting go of a volunteer. Letting go of a staff member or a volunteer is so difficult. And in church planting, sometimes you just make the wrong decision on where you place people. And I think it's really important that you think about and think through how it is you can let one of these people go or actually transition them into another ministry in your church. And man, I know Danny has stories, I have stories of us putting people in the wrong spot. And there is nothing more gratifying as a pastor, as someone in ministry, whenever you're able to connect someone in the right skill set and the right spiritual gift set. Danny, do you have a story about just a time that you really messed up like this?
Well, I'm not going to start maybe with how I messed up, but I do have plenty of those stories. But I think that one of the things is what you said, which is really your philosophy of volunteering in the first place. If you can, from the beginning, set a culture in which you're saying, my role is to help you find how you can best serve God, and that's kind of the framework in which you're doing it, it will help you when you have someone that isn't operating in that. Because the difficulty becomes when they think that they are, and they're like, no, I want to be lead vocals on the worship team, and they are not good at lead vocals, or they think that they're great on the greeting team, but their face communicates something different for that. And so I think you use the word transition, which I think is really it's helpful, that you're not like firing them. You're trying to find a different spot for them. So you did ask about mistakes. Here, I will say this. I remember thinking that the greeting team or parking team, that you could put, that was like the low level, just put anybody there. So yes, I definitely made mistakes in that area early on, because you kind of put maybe people that weren't good people, and then all of a sudden that was the first impression that a visitor would have, and so those were people that needed to get moved to different spots. So
I had a volunteer quit on me before we launched, and gave me an ultimatum saying, if you don't let me do this, then I'm leaving. And I fired that volunteer and just said, hey, that's not the kind of attitude we're going to have as a team together. And so you're welcome to continue to be a part of this church for the next 6 months. You're just going to sit and enjoy and learn about the grace and goodness of God. And my hope is that God changes your heart. That's kind of a heavy one. And it was before we launched, and he dropped the sound system off at my hobut he was working on it at his house, and it was raining outside. And it was a sad day. I was like, oh, this is terrible. Again, I'm a people pleaser. And so, but the challenge though, to all of this, if we're just going to get to the nuts and bolts of just how it is, and every one of these is nuanced a little bit differently, okay? But I think with every one of them, you have to start with thank you, okay? Every time you're going to move someone from one role to the next, I think it's important to really sandwich what you're doing. If you can think about it like just on the front end, you're affirming them, letting them know that God loves them, that they have skills and abilities. They just can't sing. Or one of the volunteers, we had to move out of a spot. We found out he was running sound for us, but he was tone deaf. Like literally wasn't able to hear sound like you should be able to. If you had a vision problem, right, we wouldn't put you in charge of the bus ministry, okay? Not that there's even one of those anymore. But all that to say, we would make these decisions. I think it has to start with a thank you. I think before you can even, backing up even further to that though, I think every role in your ministry should have a job description. Every single role. That way it's not about personality. And I realize this, a lot of times it is about personality, but you have to be able to separate the person, and maybe they're a little obnoxious as a greeter, or maybe they overshare, overtalk, maybe they're a small group leader, that should have never became a small group leader, and you just got a little ambitious. Whatever the role is, I think it's really important that you're able to circle back to a job description, even as a volunteer. And it doesn't need to be long. It can be a half page, a full page of expectations. And more than likely, the reason why you're wanting to let them go from this position is they aren't meeting the expectations, right? So if you're able to circle back to that job description and say, okay, but also backing up before you have to fire them, another level is this, is tell everyone on your launch team early on, hey, we're not going to give away titles, we're going to give away responsibilities. Because people, man, I don't care how low the ego is, people love that title. And when you take that away from them, it's going to be really difficult for them to stay at your church, in your ministry. Danny, any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So it's 2 times you said, hey, let's back up a little bit before that. And you're absolutely right. It's the culture and the processes that lead up to that. It's only once you're in trouble, you're like, crud, I gave this person a title, and yet, we would always say there's like this culture where, hey, as you're trying to find your fit, you're going to try multiple things. And with most of our processes, like whether it was worship team or whatever, it was like, hey, you're going to try this for 3 to 6 months. And after 3 to 6 months, we're going to ask you, is this working for you? And then, vice versa as well. So that both people kind of have an out, not, hey, I signed up for the worship team. I'm now on the worship team until, Jesus comes back or until I die type of thing. And you also have a culture of evaluation, and you can't have evaluation unless you have that description. You're evaluating against this, not just this kind of general thing. And if you're able to do those evaluations kind of just, even if they're not overly formalized on a regular basis, even when it's positive. So it's not like you're getting called into the principal's office and the greeter team leader is, calling a greeter in, and every time that happens, that person's gone. But to say, hey, let's just have this kind of culture of evaluation. So yes, so much of this, really starts in the beginning. The other part that I would say, because you had mentioned, I'm a people pleaser, and most pastors are, or they're nervous that the person's going to get mad and leave. If you do nothing, often you're going to have bigger problems on your hands. So just to think through that, because if they're not doing their job well, it's affecting other team members that are other volunteers that are on that team. It actually is kind of a slap in the face to those that are fulfilling their responsibilities, operating at a high level. And then it's like, oh, this person is on the team. They're kind of dragging the whole team down. So if you're able to, again, have some of that culture and the processes in the beginning, it's going to just save you a lot in the long run. You're still going to have those issues, but at least it's a little bit easier. And to come to that person and say, hey, let's find you a different place, because that's what we're about here. So,
yeah. And I mean, it's not a matter of, is this going to happen? It's going to happen. Okay. So I think it's really important on the front end, before you even start putting people to serving or putting volunteers in place, is letting them know there is an expectation here. And we're going to circle back to this and set it in your calendar. Literally, the moment you have the first meeting with them, hey, in 3 months, we're going to talk about this. And I would tell our launch team, we're actually, maybe you're running kids ministry right now, but you could be running the greeting team 6 months from now. So don't get married to this. And I think that's really important. We're committed to the mission. And man, there was one conversation that I didn't have that I wish I would have with the person that was running kids ministry. I gave them the title of kids director, and he was not a part of that conversation that we had previously about hey, there's going to be a timeline to this and whatever. And it just wasn't the greatest fit. He had started an Awanas program at his last church, and doing Awanas at a church and doing kids ministry at a church, starting one from scratch, are 2 different things. So that means also, just because they're a great school teacher in an elementary school, they may not be great in kids ministry. You just got to have to evaluate on that as you go. So all that to say, do some front end work with job descriptions and expectations conversations. Make sure you're following up. But let's say you're at the inevitable place now where you have got to remove a volunteer. You want to affirm them for who they are and how God has gifted and skilled them. You want to be sure you're going to thank them for what they've done. And then you're going to tell them, you got to just be honest, right? Hey, I'm here today to have this honest conversation with you. This is not the greatest fit for you. And
let's try something else. Yeah.
Let's try, and that leads to the 4th thing. We're going to try something else. You're going into that meeting with 2 or 3 options of what they could do next. You're not just going to say, hey, hey, you suck at this, sit on the bench for a while. No, it's, hey, this isn't the greatest fit for you. And maybe they may even ask for a few reasons why, and just be honest in the few reasons why. And then, hey, I've actually considered this for you. What are your thoughts, right? And get some of their feedback. You're not just like forcing them into, maybe they were a small group leader and now instead you're going to simply put them in like a door greeting position or whatever the case scenario is. And that's what's so difficult about this question. It's nuanced so much differently because you could have a person that actually needs a break. And that sometimes that is the situation. Like maybe they do need to sit on the bench for a while because their attitude's not what it needs to be. Maybe they're going through a divorce, or they're going through a challenging time in their marriage, or they're going through a challenging time with their kids. I think it's really important to go, hey, we care about you. And because we care about you, we're going to give you a bit of a break for 6 months. And then we're going to come back again. At the end of 6 months, we're going to evaluate that. And again, you got to put that in your calendar because you're going to forget. And they're not going to forget. They're counting on it. Right. They're thinking, okay, if we have this conversation in January, that means in June we're going to talk. And if you're anything like me, you're going to have 20 other conversations like that before June. And so like you got to have that comeback conversation and to be able to say, hey, how's it going? I hope that you're encouraged. I mean, I've noticed you've been around more. I noticed you seem happier. You feel like the weight of this is off of you. And as your ministry grows, here was the challenging part for me. As your ministry grows, the same people that help you whenever the ministry is small, whenever the church is a little bit smaller and you feel a little bit more like a golf team, are not the same people that are going to be able to help you necessarily in those same roles as the church grows. And that was probably one of the biggest challenges for me. And dude, I would hear that and I just thought, you don't know how I can develop people. And sometimes there's a lid to someone's development and it's just what it is. And so like, it's good to celebrate it. It's good to affirm them. It's good to thank them. And on the back side of the conversation, say thank you again. All right. Like just, you can't affirm or thank them enough, but there has to be something there in the middle where you're honest and you're courageous with what you're saying to say, hey, I'm just going to be real with you. This isn't the greatest fit. And once you get those words out of your mouth, you build it up in your mind as something that's going to be way worse than it actually is, because more than likely they also understand that it's not the greatest fit. Very rarely have I had this conversation and someone has been shocked as a result of it. Most of the time they're affirming it with me, and when they're not, those sometimes aren't the people that you want on your team anyways. So that's how you let go of a volunteer. I know it's challenging and you can do this. Be sure to reach out if you have any additional questions. Go to churchplantersask.com. We'd love to be able to follow up with you and help you. Maybe it's even with some potential outlines of some job descriptions that you can have or whatever. And so until next time, keep asking those questions.